Let's start with the Shanti Mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are looking into second chapter, and Vaidhatya Prakarana. Tatya means real, and Vaidhatya is actually, they say that it is not real, but if it is not real, then why do we think about it? Because it appears to be real. In appearance, it is there, but only thing is that the reality is not like the way in the wakeful state we have the reality. So, and the main important aspect of it is our dream. Dream is real, but at the same time, it's not real. This is what is the idea of Vaitatya. Rather than using the terms as real or unreal, both of them are supposed to be real or whatever that exists. You know, in the present day language, that we don't have to worry about all those terms which earlier people used to use it. Um, I would like to really revise the whole thing into the present day terminology, the usage of it. Dream is a dream, wakeful state is a wakeful state. I don't have to really prove that dream is not wakeful state, etc., all those things. It cannot be replaced. These are the things which are normally a lot of discussion goes on. But there is another important aspect. He says that in the eighth sutra of the second chapter, he says that Apurvam sthani dharmo hi yatha swarga nivasinam tanayam prekshate gatva yathaiveha sushiktitam. Before is it that real, unreal, and all that which to explain to that, they have used traditionally they have used the examples of the pot and the clay and all that. Clay is real. Take out the clay from the pot. There is no pot at all. So pot is not unreal. So all these ideas that they have said it, I don't think we need to go into that kind of a logic or argument. In the 21st century, now we are basically because the science has really progressed a lot. We know that that is something which is um, actually has these two things, material cause, and also there is an intelligence cause behind it. That means some artist is there, some craftsman, some worker is there, created a pot. But he has to create a pot with the help of material. So here it looks like that material component is different from the intelligence component, the creator component. So these two things are there in the case of pot and metal. Whereas when you look at the dancer and the dance, it's one and the same thing. You remove the dance from dancer, it doesn't exist at all. Or the dancer is called as a dancer because that there is dancing. So that's why we have the example of the analogy of creation is like Nataraja's dance. That's what is the creation is all about. That makes it much more simple so that we don't have to think of real and unreal. When you are dancing, you are a dancer. When you are not dancing, that you are Brahman. Brahman is there and then manifested Prakriti is there. So both these things are nothing but its own existence. Only one thing that here we need to understand clearly is that the manifest world, the created world that you see, it goes from gross to subtle. Grossest level is what is called as the Prithvi, Apaha, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha, subtle. And then subtler than this Akasha is supposed to be the consciousness, your awareness. So now what happens is that this awareness, consciousness belongs to you. And it is something which is reflecting on the object outside all the time. If in fact, in the sense that if I see, the seeing is happening through the eyes, but then eyes cannot see, it is the consciousness which is seeing. Ears cannot hear, it is the consciousness which is hearing through the ears. Ears are only the means. So, a very simple way we can understand that consciousness is there everywhere, in spite of the fact these things come from the same consciousness, gives rise to these things. So, now this fits in very well with the idea that gross is something which is time, space, everything is very well defined. The matter, solid matter is well defined. Whereas the moment that when you go to the water, Prithvi, then we go to water. Water actually means the liquid matter. When you go to the liquid, it is defined in certain sense, but it is also freedom. That means to say it can take any shape of the object, any shape of the container that you put it. It has that freedom. That degree of freedom that it has seemed to be the way that consciousness is, as I said last time also, that it is this freedom which makes us to realize that he is conscious or the consciousness is there. When it comes to the gases, there is greater freedom, and that freedom is this freedom of the volume that is there. I can put the same amount of gas in small volume or in a big volume. So both these things are possible. That freedom it has got is nothing but the content of the consciousness itself. So now it is not the gas occupying the place, but the consciousness inside the gas is something which is making to matter occupying the space. When it comes to akasha space, Vidyapa Tejo Vayu, light is much more flexible. But then when it comes to akasha, most important property of akasha itself is that akasha is not replaced because that there is a object that is sitting in that akasha. Like for example, in this room that there is so much of space is there. I bring in four items and then put them, occupying the akasha, the room that is there inside this place. But it does not mean the room is replaced. That means that outside of it, it goes and says that I belong to this room only. It doesn't have like that. That means to say it not only accommodates the things, it becomes that. This is the avakasha. That's why the akasha, the space which is supposed to be akasha, defined in the Indian culture, Indian system, it is like that. If the space itself is something which can accommodate, which can become that, however, what about the subtler than that space, which is supposed to be consciousness? So consciousness is something not only it occupies, but then there is a next degree of freedom that it has, is that it becomes that. It easily becomes that. So that means to say it becomes something which is limited, though it is limitless. That is what we say that Brahman has the freedom to give up its freedom, become something which is a lesser freedom. And that becoming something of a lesser freedom is our eyes and ears, etc. But then behind that, what is that? Same consciousness is working, same Brahman is working. So, and when say that we are working, that means we are one with the consciousness. These things are instruments in our hand. Very clearly, it is said that Bahya Karana, Antakarana, these are the Karanas, instruments in our hand, and we are the consciousness working behind. This is what Patanjali also feels very clearly. Like the way that these various Prithvi, Apa, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha, the consciousness become all these things. The same way, the consciousness called as I, the individual self or the Jivatma, becomes wakeful state, dream state, and deep sleep state. All these three states are you become. That's why it is all your experience. Experiencer is you, and then you limit yourself to be wakeful, you limit yourself to be take the shape of dream, and dreamless sleep state. All these three are you only become. So therefore that you are somebody behind all these things. Recognize this. And once you can see that if you are there, somebody behind, even the wakeful state or the dream state and a sleep state, you are behind it. and which is supposed to be consciousness or Brahman or Jivatma. You call it any name. Atma there means I. Jivatma means in this small little area that I occupy, this is what is I. Similarly, every I is created from that same consciousness that is there. And then these are for the functional purposes. It's purely for the functional purpose. That is called as Vyavaharika Satya. Vyavahara means functional. This world is the Vyavahara Satya. Don't take it beyond that. Absolute. That's what is the simple idea that he talks about it. Here there is, but at the same time, if you need to do the Vyavahara, you have to come to this level, manifest world level, that then only Vyavahara takes place. Taittiriya Upanishad also gives that you become food and the hunger, then only Vyavahara takes place. And that Vyavahara is done at the Vyavaharika, that means to say the satisfaction that you get in this transaction is nothing but Brahman. Therefore, Brahman is satisfied, Brahman is somebody who is ecstasy, bliss. All these qualities are given, and that Brahman is not somebody sitting there, but you are that. So, in that sense, that your nature itself is blissful, your nature itself is peace. Now, the second aspect is that you see that you become the dream state. And dream state, the two important qualities of the dream state is that it says, Shastra says that here, it is that drishyatvat, that means to say, you are watching it. And anityatvat, that means it is short-lived. Drishyatvat anityat, that means you see, and then it is also short-lived. Yes, we can see that the dream, you have elaborate dream that you see, which goes to from place to place. But at the same time, that when you wake up and see that the time that you spent in that dream is hardly anything, it's hardly 10 minutes, and wake up. And then the story of 10 minutes, the dream that you say, is almost like hours together it can go. Now, all this experience is there within us. Why don't we use this experience to understand the phenomenal world outside? So, in that sense only, when I say that the dream experience is so valuable for us, that in the dream, that we compress the whole reality into a short form, short place. So, therefore, the same way that whatever that happened in the battlefield, about 15 minutes or half an hour conversation, Krishna and Arjuna, the conversation must have gone like the way in the language, where in the dream that it all optimized. That means to say, small little time, and then you convey so many things. By the time it is written into Gita, it came to 700 shlokas. Often people ask that, I mean, 700 shlokas when Krishna is telling to Arjuna what people were doing in the battlefield, they were sleeping or what? Nothing. The whole thing must have gone in a short time. Here, at least, something which is a conversation. Whereas you see what happened in the case of the Rama and Vasishta. It has gone to something like 36,000, 32,000 shlokas, the whole of Yoga Vasishta. You mean to say that Rama was listening to all that 32 and Vasishta was giving those things? It is not like that. The main crux that they have given, but by the time that the author has written that, he added so many stories behind it to convey a similar kind of message. The stories are analogies. Analogies taken from various places to see that how the story is strengthened. So it is not a question of that it is, you don't have to mystify these things. It is reality. Mystifying that, somebody, God has given the Bhagavad Gita, so therefore it is called as Bhagavan Vacha. All these things, Lord, let's not mystify these things. We have, this is where the Indian philosophy is very beautiful. They try to avoid the mysteries and then try to explain to the real terms. And the real term that you can see very nicely, all of us, we have within us what is called as the divine quality, but at the same time, we also have human qualities that we have. We transact like human being, but at the same time, on special occasion that the divinity manifests from within us, and from that the knowledge comes about. This is what happened in the whole of Bhagavad Gita. That's why Every other character you refer by name, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Sanjay Uvacha, Arjuna Uvacha. But the moment it comes to Krishna, he says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. That means when talking about Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not the human Krishna is talking about, but the divine power that is there within him, personality. He identifies with that. Which, when you understand this, that means to say, mind body complex that is there is the physical world, but consciousness is something which is the divinity within. I may be involved in the mind body complex and then I talk about it. Then it is Raghuram speaking. But when I become identified with the consciousness, that's what is Bhagavan speaking. In fact, it's beautifully given in understood in such a way. In Jesus Christ also, he was crucified. Actually, what happened is the crucifixion was his physical body is crucified. That means body-mind complex is crucified. But he is the consciousness. That's what Jesus says, that I might die, but my message has to go on. That message is supposed to be the spiritual message. That's the consciousness that continues to go on. But people don't understand that, or they try to make it. These are the two things which is called as the Satya and Tatya. Tatya is what really happened. Satya is the essential idea behind it. Indian philosophy recognizes that Satya we do not confuse with the Tatya. So Satya is basically the message has been given. But Tatya is that physically it happened in the battlefield. So let's not confuse these two things. So when we don't confuse these two things, then we don't have to call as one as real, one is unreal, one is this way, one is that way. Everything is real only. So therefore, that part of discussion does not really hold good. Second aspect is the eighth sutra. He says that apurvasthani dharmo hi yatha swarganivasinam tanayam prekshate gatva yathaiteva sushikshitaha. When he says that, like the way in the dream that you have the idea of Swarga, and then you go and have all the experience of Swarga, which gives us an indication that dream is that subtle aspect of us. See, gross is the wakeful state, subtle is the dream state. Now, the dream state, which is a subtle world, it can be so intense. We can create the intensity in such a way that all these goddesses, all these gods, and their whole Swarga, everything, can manifest at the subtle level, can be there ours. We create that. Don't we create that in our dream? In dream, we create. If you are really positive, then you create a nice, wonderful place, a palace that you are living in the dream. And then when you wake up, the palace is destroyed, over, gone. But then you lived in the palace for a while. That's what in the Janaka story that it comes. So he was having some 100 children, etc., etc., in the dream, and suddenly he was woken up, and all the children died. That means to say they are no more there. And outside that there is a person there, he says that should I now feel happy that it was a dream, or should I feel sad that all my 100 children died there? So that means to say basically that's also be equally reality, equal reality. Only thing is wakeful state is for a short period of time. I mean, long period of time. Dream experiences for a short period of time. But you are there behind it. So therefore that it is not a question of how long it should be there. But more important thing is it indicates that it is as unreal as the world outside, short-lived as the world outside. Only thing is that what that lives for a short life means few minutes, whereas the wakeful state lives for few hours. Otherwise, wakeful state is also that you see few days, few months, years that we are here. What is the outcome of it? Nothing. In fact, on this earth, so many people have lived earlier. For 10,000 years, how many people have, wherever you are standing, the same ground that at least 100 people are buried already. And nobody knows what they have done. Nobody is interested in what they have done. Whose names that it is there? We don't even know that. That means to say that this is as unreal as the way in the dream that it happens. But then in spite of it, we take it real. We take it real because that we are looking at from this wakeful state itself. When we are in the wakeful state, you don't know what is death. We assume that death will happen, but otherwise we don't know that. The same way that we are out of the dream state, then you can see the wakeful state. That dream is like a dream, not real. Same way, if you are really awakened from this wakeful state also, then you start perceiving this world is as dream itself, or as real as a reality. So, therefore, both these things are there in our perception. That's why Vivekananda, when he went to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and asked, "Have you seen God?" In his reply, he says that I've seen God, and if I have seen God, you might think that it's in the dream or something like that. No. The God that I have seen is more real than I see you now. If there is anything like dream, you are the dream for me, but that is the reality. The same thing he gave an expression when last day when he was supposed to depart. Sharda Devi was crying because Ramakrishna is leaving this body. Ramakrishna smiles and says that, look, I'm going to a different world, that's all. I'm not dying. There is no question of death to me. If you identify yourself with consciousness, that's what you can see that. And all the practice of ideas of yoga is to see that how you can be one with this consciousness so that death will not bind you. The world does not bind you, death will not bind you. Happily live in this world, at the same time, happily die. That's what Raghuamsha says. Dehe yoginante tanutyajam. He leaves this body like a yogi detaching himself from the body. And that will happen to you. So here he says that, yatha, like the way that you imagine the Gandharva Nagari, that means to say heaven. But heaven can be so real many times that it can be more real than the world outside. That's what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said. God for me is more real than I see you now. Seeing you is not dismissed, but relatively seeing you, or in other words, interacting with this world, is something which is less important than the dream world within me. This is what people have described as visions. The intensity of wanting to see God is so deep, whether it is Mirabai or whether it is Tyagaraja or Ramakrishna, that they start seeing this God in reality in this dream state. It became much more real than the real world itself. Then it is called as visions. Imagine that a very simple imagination of an idea, we can create an object outside. Any object that you create, you should have a subtle form within you, so that from that subtle form you create the real object. A small little thought that comes in the mind, from which that you create a real object outside. Then if there is such a vast, subtle level, that means sukshma level, you have created the whole palace and God and all those things. Will they not become real? They will also be real. Only thing is that they are real for him, for the person who created, not for everybody. That's why Taijasa is individual, Vaishvanara is outside. Now you see that because of that reason only, that all these great saints and spiritual seekers, they have had the God vision. They have seen the God. This is what Swami uh, Ramdas, he writes the book. First of all, in the quest of God. But the quest was so intense in him. The quest developed so much in him. The quest itself turned out to be the God images. That's why he wrote the next book, In Quest of God, followed by In the Vision of God. That means to say now his vision is about the God. He has that experience. That's what he has given. When you start seeing that way, then you see that you're interacting not with the world outside, you're interacting with the consciousness of world outside. All these limitations drop off. You also see in the world outside the consciousness, and you are yourself consciousness. What you are, you see the world also the same. So this is what is the next level that we take. The vision, the reality, it's not that bhakti path is not that you have to imagine a God or God is fictitious. God is imaginary. It is not like that. God is a feeling that is there within you with such a way that you become that reality. That's why I said last time also that bhakti is the janani of God. God is not the janani of bhakti. Are you have bhakti because that you have God? No. Because God is, because of the bhakti, then you will be able to see God, not only in particular image or anything like that, but the whole creation itself looks like God. When it becomes creation looks like God, that's what is the experience of Nataraja. That means to say the dancing whole reality is nothing but a dance of the Shiva. And you don't have any disrespect for anything in this world because that you are seeing in this world as God. When you see God, you can't hurt it, you can't destroy it. So this is what it says that here in the 8th Sutra, Apurvasthani dharmo hi yatha swarga nivasinam tanam prekshate gatva yathaiva susikshitaha. By training, by going through the experience, that we have this kind of reality in front of us. Swapna, and another thing is that wakeful and swapna, they are not two separate things. Only thing is time difference is there. Other than that, wakeful and swapna is the same. Only thing is that swapna is for you. It's not a universal truth. Whereas the wakeful state becomes Vaishvanaraha. The enjoyer is the same. Swapnavritta vapitvan shriyate kalpitam tvayam tasat bahishcheto gruhitam sadrush vaitatyame meyato. So if in your dream state you can see within you, your mind created, that's all false. You also see the things outside, but you think that they are real. Actually, this is what the idea of falsity of the world they're trying to establish. The world is false. But in my view, that you don't have to, the false in the normal English sense, it makes it as not real and I'm bluffing. All these things come. My experience is limited. It is nothing like that. But the only thing is that false means basically as much as the dream is coming and going, short-lived, even the wakeful state is also like another dream. Only thing is the life is little longer. And then the actions that we are doing here is the wakeful state actions of the wakeful state. Dream state, the actions that we do for the dream personality, dream activity that we do it. As much as that is important, so much this is also important. As much as this is that is unimportant, this also unimportant. Like I see I'm going in the forest, I see a tiger chasing me in the dream, though it is a dream tiger, and the dreamer is experiencing that dream tiger, and he has fear, and he runs for his life. As much as he would have run for his life in the wakeful state. There's no difference between that. Only thing is when you wake up, you see that it becomes like a dream. It doesn't have the reality. When you see in the dream like that you run away from the world so that you save yourself in the dream world, the same way you think that in the wakeful state also, there are pleasures and pains, there are sufferings, and then there are rewards that is there. All these things happen. Realize that. Don't run away from that. That's why they said that don't try to drive away the thief in the dream. In the dream, don't murder that dream, the dream thief that is there. Wake up. The moment you wake up, everything goes away. Same way, the moment that you become self-realized, all these things drop off. That's what is the idea. Self-realization is what is called as prajna. That means you are in the prajna state. That's why Krishna gives that idea. The sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhi tasya keshava. Person who is in the prajna, that's what is basically the way that he behaves. So you being in your own nature itself is prajna. You are naturally what you are. then you don't have anything about the world outside. You don't have any hatred, any jealousy. Nothing is there. At that level where you become yourself, you become fully compassionate, fully love. That's what is our nature is. And the harmony. So Jagrat Vrita Vapi Tvantaschetanaha Kalpitam Tosat Bahish Cheto Gruhitam Satrisham Vaitatyam Etayo. Like the way, the moment that you wake up, Chetana Kalpitam Tvaisa, you realize that all the Chetana that is there in the dream state, it is nothing but it's Kalpitam by cause of the Chetana. You don't see the Chetana, but you see the object that is shining under the Chetana. The same way, Bahicheto Gruhitam Sadyuktam, that means to say, even the outside creation, outside world that is there, Vaitatyametayoho. This is what is called as Vaitatya. Vaitatya is that a limited application that is there for the sake of transaction level, for the sake of this. Not the question of it is real or unreal. The question is that it is useful at one particular level and that's useful at a different level. उभयोरपि वैतथ्यं भेदानां स्वयमेव च स्थानमेव च क एतान् बुध्यते भेदात् को वै तेषां विकल्पतः. So, if both these waking and dream states are supposed to be false, vaisatyam, then there can be no object-subject relationship. See, uh, when do we, when does when these two states become unreal or vaitatya is when you wake up into the turiya state, fourth state when you wake up. Yes, these two things are unimportant. Does not mean that they go away. They'll be there. Only thing is that they creating a problem for you will go away. That's the reason why the knowledge of Taittiriya Upanishad, of Mandukya Upanishad will give an idea that still world is respectful, whatever that decisions, activity that you need to take. You have to take it the way that you have to take with that, knowing fully well that it is like a dream and you don't get any benefit out of it. Your benefit is when you be established in yourself. That is the way idea it has been said. But at the same time, that look at the way that it is as real, important, the world outside. And like for example, the drama that some people play, the Ram at Ram Leela, somebody has become Ravan. And then Ravan is a villainous guy, violent, this and that, all those things are there. Attributes are there for him. But the moment he comes out of it, then he becomes a common person. He doesn't have any anger. He doesn't have any venom or anything like that. He is a common man. So, but then just because he is a common man, when he is playing the role of Ravan, he has to be like Ravan. All those qualities, all those things that are there, just live like that. If he doesn't live like that at that point of time, then he is not a fit dramatist. He is not a fit actor. So we need to have people who identify with that, knowing fully well that this is something which is a few hours reality, not beyond that. If you can understand that, this idea that is there, we can apply in our day-to-day life also. The sense that you are passionately involved in the world, absolutely passionately involved in this world. But then only thing is that the world should move, that's all. It's not become stagnant. You can't say that, no, I don't want to move it, I don't want to. I'm happy with this. Nothing like that. It has to go on. So that's why allowing the world to go on freely, for that reason only, this Mandukya Upanishad takes this pain of explaining that this is what is as real as the world outside is as real as the dream, as non-real as the dream non-real. So that's why it is comparable to that. We give that information. In fact, it says, Kalpayat Atman Atmana Atmanam Devas Swamayayaha. Deva Swamayayaha. It's a very beautiful word that he says that own power. Actually, uh, this consciousness is the self, and that means Brahman. And Swamayaya. This is what I also quoted from the Rudra Chama, and also Bhagavad Gita also talks about it, saying that yajno yajnana kalpitam, prano yajnana kalpitam, apano, all those things happen because of yajna. But then the question comes, who created this yajna? Yajno yajnana kalpitam. Yajna has an ability to create yajna, or as I said, that the consciousness has a ability to give up its consciousness to become something which is transactionable. Consciousness itself is not transactionable, but it has to become something which is less consciousness so that transaction can be possible. And comes Vyavahara is the way that the creation is there. So therefore it is created from the Brahman. But there is nothing like unreal about this. There is nothing like Maya, Mithya. I don't subscribe to these words. I feel that without those words, we can understand how the manifest world is created. But behind that, we are the consciousness that is there, just like within us also, that the consciousness we are, on top of it, our child days has gone, young days are gone, elder days are gone. So all these things are aropita on the consciousness that's there within. It's not touched by that. So that means to say, whatever the sins that are there in the world outside do not touch us. So it's a wrong thing to say that we do the sinning. It's not that. Because we can't sin, it doesn't even touch. But then why we take that it is a sin? Because that we are ignorant. So it's only the ignorance we call it as sin, but not otherwise. That's why the jnana is supposed to be opposite to ajnana. Eh, but then he says that apichedapi papebhya sarvabhya prathama sarvam jnana plavenaiva prijanam santarshyasi. By using the jnana, you cross the papa. That means to say there is nothing like papa. With the knowledge that you cross ignorance, and all the activities are manifest out of ignorance. We can see that a child out of ignorance wants to catch the fire. He advances the hand, and the child doesn't know anything. It just sees the fire and then tries to hold it. It is the mother's responsibility, others' responsibility. See, the child does not put the hand in the fire. Immediately rushes there and then pushes the hand of the chair, a child, and you even scold. Why did you try to hold that flame? Because the child doesn't know it. Some naughty mothers even hold the chair, hand of the child and then take it all the way to the fire and say, can I put it in the fire? So that, hello, ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಎಸೆನ್ಷಿಯಲಿ so that, like the way that an actor has to take the action seriously, because that's how you get the rasa of that activity, action that you're doing. In the same way, this world that is there, even though it is supposed to be unreal in that sense, that it is Maithatya, but then you take part in this fully, participate in this fully. That is the idea. He says that kalpaya kalpaya कल्पयाय आत्मना आत्मानम् एव देवस्वमायया स एव बुध्यते भेदम् इति वेदांत निश्चितः. So this is what Vedanta gives us an idea. What is the advantage of this knowledge is that you can easily let go in the world outside. See, we are caught up in the world outside. When we get caught up means it becomes that this thing has become reality for us. When it doesn't become reality for us, we can say, however problem that may be there, I have a freedom to do that. This is what the apply. You become one with the consciousness, and the consciousness has the freedom. That's what we say, and this is what is the essential principle of Jnana Yoga. You have a freedom. Kartum makartum anita kartum. Shastriji used to say that. You can worry, you don't have to worry about it. You can detach from this. This is the freedom that one can exercise. That's what the story of Socrates that we have. The Roman Empire, that they thought that he was spreading blasphemy. They wanted to give him poison. And then when, in fact, they said that he's spreading blasphemy, just kill him means that he will die. He will not suffer the death. So we should give him a poison that slowly kills him. So they decided to give a poison called as hemlock, so that which will slowly kill him. And it was served to him. Socrates took the poison, hemlock, and then smiling, talking to the people, saying that, look, my legs are benumbed, my hands are benumbed. Slowly they're becoming blue. The poison is showing its effect. When he's reporting like that, then the disciples over there said, Socrates, you are dying. Are you not suffering? Socrates said very clearly that this body is born and it has to die. It is physical. And then material law is a cause and effect connection. That means, say, I take poison, the poison must kill this body. Fine. The body mind complex, poison can kill. But I don't have to suffer. It's freedom. To suffer or not to suffer is freedom. No court can say that I should suffer. Court can only say that I can die. And then he just said that and he died. So that means suffering or not suffering is your freedom. And that freedom is the freedom of consciousness. In the moment that you are consciousness, you are one with the consciousness, you are Jivatma, you are Brahman, then where is the question of suffering? Suffering is not there. So you can free yourself, you can detach yourself from that suffering. You can be a witness for that. That's why the Brahman is known as witness, or the consciousness is known as witness. That's the idea. Witness does not, actually, witness is not a very good word in English because we don't have a better word called as sakshi. We call it as witness. The idea of sakshi is that in in modern language of sakshi, that means witness, you can't be a witness to yourself. Somebody else should be a witness to you. Like, for example, you go to the court and say that I did not do the murder. I did not get the murder. I did not kill somebody. The judge will ask, what is the witness that you have? Bring in witness. I am the witness. I have not killed somebody. No, you can't be a witness for whatever the act that you do. Somebody else. Unconnected people. And that person who says that he is not, if he's supposed to my own brother, I say that, yeah, blood connection is there. That's why he will say a lie. So he will support you. So it should be somebody outside. Whereas in the Vedanta, you cannot be a witness to somebody else. You can be witness to yourself. Sakshi is like that. I can be a witness for myself. So that means say, I'm an observer, and then what is happening is observed outside. This is what is the first thing that he says, drishtatvat. That means say the moment that you become witness, and all the other things is observed outside, whatever that you observe is the material world. It's what is Prakriti, it is outside. Or in other words, it is called as the manifest Brahman. And you are the unmanifest Brahman behind it. So, Drishtatvat is one way that you are different from the anything that is there, including your mind, your intellect, your brilliance, everything that is there, you are watching it. You are the observer behind it. So, therefore, Drishtatvat and Anityatvat, that means to say, at this moment is something happening. Next moment, the same thing is not happening. You're still watching. 1 minute it happened, next minute it died. So that means to say even the world outside is supposed to be anityatvat, not short-lived. So therefore, these are the two things which separates the consciousness from the objective world outside. Even though the whole of objective world is coming from the same consciousness, as I said. In what way it comes from the same consciousness? The consciousness which is supposed to have the total freedom gives up its freedom to become an object in the world outside. In one sense, it becomes the matter, it becomes electricity, it becomes space. All these things are same consciousness is becoming. Within us, the same consciousness itself becomes like mind, intellect, mind, and the sensory organs, finally. All these things are nothing but the same consciousness which has become. Why it becomes like that? It gets that experience. The world outside also consciousness become limited so that it can get experience. In fact, it's such a beautiful way it is said that whatever that creation is there, Prithvi, Apa, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. Prithvi is supposed to be grossest level. And that's why Akara is supposed to be the base of all this gross world. And then comes the subtle world, Ukara, and then the causal world, Turiya, Makara, that is there, Shunya. So you are the Turiya behind it. But the same thing can be so beautifully organized in such a way that space is something which has the total freedom. There. The moment that you come to the air, Prithvi, Apa, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. Next it comes to Vayu, then already that Vayu can be solidified. That means to say it has become some substance. Vayu can be here, Vayu can be there. You can feel that. Similarly, like that, Tejas, light, and then Prithvi, Apaha, these are the things. Now, of all these things, that Tejas is something which is, fire is something which is real. And or the whole creation, nothing but energy that you call. That's what today's science also calls it as energy. And that energy calls it as Tejas. And Tejas has become everything in this way. Now, what happens is that this, when it is the Akasha, then Akasha is perceived by your uh, sense called as hearing. It belongs to sensory organ called as hearing. Whereas from Akasha, when you come down further into Vayu, Vayu, not only the sensory organ called as hearing, but sensory organ called as touch is also there. Two sensory organs are involved. Then from these two things, when you Tejas, Tejas is the fire, then you see this fire is something which you can experience in all these three different senses. That means say hearing, seeing, and all these things. And then now, next thing is it comes to the level of Prithvi, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha, Apaha. Apaha is the water, and at the or the liquid. At that level, four sensory organs involved. Like for example, you can touch, you can feel, you can. Its hearing is also there. Ears are involved, and then hearing, and then touching, and then all these things are involved. So therefore, there's one more thing that is involved. In the case of rasa, water is the taste aspect of it. It gives the taste also. So that means four Indias are involved. And the last one is supposed to be the Prithvi. Beyond that, there is no creation, solid, that's stability. And that gives this earth can give all the five sense experience. And our sense experience also completes with all the five experiences. That's what is the reality. So rasa, gandha, rupa, and all these things are involved in this. So, and we don't have any more senses to have any more object in the world outside. Experience is not there. Experience can be only through these senses. That's why we say that the sense and sense experience, both these things belong to the world outside. Annavan annado bhavati. Food belongs to hunger, object belongs to the eyes, ears, etc. So therefore, that these two things belong to the world outside, and then you are the consciousness behind it. So identify yourself with that consciousness, then de-identify yourself with the idea of set up professional audios in audio selection. I think less time. I see that actually there is nice, wonderful responses there, but let me see next time what can be done. Look into that. The audio setup. In fact, the science also has come to the level where earlier they used to think it is a gross world, but then slowly now they came out of the gross world saying that it is energy. Now, energy also they came out, and then it is something which is supposed to be the space that they are looking at. In fact, they said that these two things, when it comes to the atom, molecule, and an electron, is it wave or particle? These are the two things that were there. But it says that it is wave when you start observing it, otherwise when it is particle. The idea that came it must be particle is particle means object. In the water, that the particle actually, you see that the wave takes curve. The light beam gets a curvature in the water. It shows that it is a particle. Whereas in the space that it goes, it cannot be a particle because that it reaches so fast that object cannot reach. Any object cannot reach. So that's what is Einstein said, that an object cannot reach beyond. So that, but it reaches, so therefore it must be wave. So that we see it must be electricity, it must be energy. A particle is converted to energy beyond the space of, beyond the speed of light. So therefore, the science also coming to the area that where object and the energy, they are not two separate things, but where it functions, what functions, which shows that whether it is object or the space. When this object in space can be like that, we can see that if you identify yourself with the consciousness, or identify yourself with the material world outside. I need to identify myself with the material world. For that, my sensory organs are involved. Like, for example, I touch something which is hot, immediately message goes to the heart, my senses. I am at the sense level. So I need to work at the sense level to see that something hot, I do not touch it. Similarly, when I eat food, I come to the sense level like taste so that I see that it is tasty. But at the same time, behind all these things that I am the consciousness. So therefore, at the Vyavahara level, we become consciousness, the consciousness becomes the object outside. And you are, when Vyavahara is not there, Prapanchopashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam. You become one with the consciousness, with the Jiva, or Brahman. That's what is the idea that we come to. So this is what is the distinction between these two things. Vaitatya is always about the material world outside. So after these sutras, next he gives material world outside is divided into so many different ways of looking at it. In fact, that's what is the next sutra I'm going to talk about, is saying that you want to perceive the world and then you can perceive in your own way. That's why when the material world has to be, when the manifest world has to be defined, there are so many theories that are there. Sankhya theory is there, Vaisheshika theory is there. All these theories are basically because you are looking at this manifest world. But in spite of all those things, that you are the rishi, you are somebody consciousness behind it. In our culture, we always said that even the people who inquired into these things, material world, they're also rishis. That means to say their background is always there in the form of consciousness identification. And with that identification, they produce these things. See, the Western concept of material world investigation is you don't have to become freed from the material world outside. You can be, you can have no moral standards when you are doing the material world research outside. Whereas the Indian system, it is not like that. Even if you are doing anything in the material world outside, basically that you need to have what is called as the standard, moral standard, which is supposed to be that you are one with the Brahman, you are one with the Atman. That's why we call it as rishis, whether it is where Sankhya is given by Kapila Muni or Ayurveda is given by the Charaka. These are all for us, they're all saints, they're all God realized people. So from that, all these things, even the music, Bharata Muni, who has given us the music, also for that. That means to say, all the Shastras which are developed in India, they directly or indirectly are taking towards the Brahmistiti, Atmastiti. That's why you can see that till recently, all our music is around the God. All our structures are around the God. Temples around the God. So that is the idea with which that this culture developed. So this is what is the essence of this Vaitatya Prakaranam. And I'll give you some of the details next week, and then we proceed further. We'll stop it at this level. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. If you have any questions, you can unmute. Otherwise, we'll meet next week so that continue with the discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Raghuramji.
Okay.